What's up? It's Ryan. Some of you may know this, but most of you probably don't. But when I was a little dude, I was a gymnast. I was a badass actually. I was like a freaking ninja. I mean, I wasn't really a ninja, but I was really small little guy. Started gymnastics when I was like 5 years old and did it for many, 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 many years. Um, but I was really good, anyways. When I was about 10 years old, I was training pretty intense. I was actually with the old Polish Olympic coach, and said I was a hopeful for the Olympics um, in 2020. Pretty sure. Anyways, during a floor routine, I blacked out while I was in the air doing like a round off double back full. And I just blacked out. I don't know what happened. When I came to, my arm was all busted up, almost coming through the skin. I could see it like ET, just kind of freaked me out. I started like screaming, and the people at the other end of, my coach and a couple other boys over there were like laughing, and they thought I just did something weird, but little they know that I had like ET arm coming out of my hand, and so they came over and, oh my God, your arm's broken. Yeah. So that was a moment that changed the trajectory of my life forever. Um, they fixed my arm, and I went back to gymnastics after that, and that coach started training me with my cast on. And I have to thank him. Now that I think about it, he would challenge me, to do the handstand despite having only one hand. And he introduced to me like the energy. He told me to imagine that there were these poles coming out of the earth, and when I go up, become one of them. Lock in with one of that, regardless of my heavier hand on my left hand. And I did. Eventually, I learned how to do a one-hand handstand. Do my back handsprings with one hand. Um, and it didn't take too long after that where, um, I was actually just done. So I stopped doing gymnastics, and so I was, probably about 12 years old when, I discovered that, um, alcohol was fun. Well, and we're not getting into a whole life story here, but like what I was getting at is the trajectory changed at that point. A couple of years later, I woke up one day with my left ear just all filled with this crap, and I had had tubes when I was a kid and ear problems. Um, but my mom took me in to like an ENT. Turns out, I had a benign tumor growing in my inner ear right near my equilibrium, putting a lot of pressure in there. It had deteriorated all my ear bones. Had to go into surgery pretty darn quick. And many years later, I come to actually realize that that was probably what made me black out in my gymnastics, was this thing that was growing in my ear. So I had all these surgeries starting when I was like 12 years old. Um, Multiple reconstructive surgeries. They couldn't quite fix it. They couldn't get an eardrum to stay in there. So I had this open wound. It was chronically infected. I live in Illinois, so the Midwest is humid. Just was not good. Always infected. I felt gross. I could smell the stuff and all that. And um, I started self-medicating for many, many, many years because I was always in pain. It was chronic pain, and it still is today. I still have a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. It's pretty arthritic. Now that I'm like 95 years old, um, just kidding. I'm like 70. No, I just turned 49 actually, so hopefully I make it look good. But Anyways, I actually feel like I'm kind of aging backwards lately. But any case, my ear thing was like trauma forever. I self-medicated. I tried moving all around the country to try and feel better, different, and just wherever I go, there I was. Um, so it started with the gymnastics, right? Something threw me off course, and it was this thing, this physical thing, and then that physical thing turned into chronic pain. Chronic pain turned into self-medicating, but also I just felt gross. I had this constant infection, that would that had a taste, it had a smell to it. I couldn't swim, I couldn't do a lot of things that I love to do. I was susceptible. When the wind would blow hard, it would like make me dizzy. um, and it took about 13 years or so before technology had come along far enough to where they could actually fix it. They grafted a piece of muscle tissue off of the side of my head here, put it in their eardrum, filled up the inner cavities with something, and so that this blood or glue that they made out of my red blood cell could re-heal. And that glue then like dissipated, and so I have an eardrum today. What happened though, like in that 11, 12 years when I couldn't hear out of my left ear for that time period. And I loved writing music, but the only way I could really do it was I would put my guitar on my chin and I could feel the vibrations in there. And because of the silence, the block out of the rest of the world, I just heard this orchestra in my head, and it was beautiful. And I could write. I wrote some very amazing, in my opinion. I composed some very amazing things. Well, when they fixed my hearing, that inner voice went away. And can I still play? Can I still write? Yes, but not the same. I didn't. It went away, literally. So there was like a sacrifice to pay to feel better. To get this thing fixed, I lost something that I was very passionate about. And I spent many, many years like mourning that, wondering where it went, missing it. And, it took a long time to come to peace with the fact that, that's just part of my journey, right? So I learned how to play music. I can write stuff, but, I felt like I just wasn't the same person anymore. And by this time, this is like version 4, right? There was a little gymnast guy, and that was version 1, and then his trajectory changed, and then there's the guy who was injured, with this chronic injury. There's another version, and then the self-medicator, another version. The musician, another version. Now the musician that couldn't do music anymore, another version. And self-medication was like a big part of all of this throughout the whole thing. I'd love to say that I don't have these pains anymore, but I do. Because of my gymnastics career, I've had a couple back surgeries. I will not do back surgery anymore, though, because, there's this idea. They told me that at one point, they're like, you've got fractures all up and down your spine, you've got degenerative disc disorder, and this is just going to be a problem for the rest of your life. And, I bought into that, and, the x-rays say, yeah, but, I got into a motorcycle accident a couple of years ago. I was in Akron, Ohio for an event, Founders Day, actually. Those who know, but me and a bunch of guys were sitting at a stoplight, and some dude, very old guy, he was probably in his 80s. I just saw it out of my rear mirror. I looked over real quick, and I saw this little red blur, and like, oh crap, and he just slammed into me while I was sitting at a stoplight, pushed me into another car, into another bike, and just kept pushing, and eventually I just jumped off the bike. But that hurt my back pretty good, jarred me backwards. And, it wasn't the sciatica pain, that's what I was used to in the past. This was a pain more of the middle back, and so what it did was it sent the pain through my like stomach, my gut, down through my groin and the front of my leg, and it didn't come. I didn't feel it for a couple months, um, but it was excruciating, and I didn't have insurance, so when I got to my orthopedic and I got him to finally take a look, he took an MRI, X-rays and stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, you got some herniated discs. Try physical therapy." So I did physical therapy for a while, and it did not get better, and it was still excruciating. So another chronic pain. It's been a big part of my journey, chronic pain. And after about a year of having this pain consistently, um, he's like, "Hey, man, this isn't going to heal. This is not going to get fixed." And he said, "I need to have surgery." And I said, "No, I don't. I'm gonna fix this." So at this part of my journey, this was about a year ago when he told me this. But at this part of my journey, I had already gotten very, very deep into this new trajectory of mine, which is a spiritual journey. The spiritual journey was, I've always been on it. I've always been very curious. I was born into a family that, mom's Jewish, dad's Catholic. So I was like, what? So you're right and you're right, and who's... So I was very curious, and always exploring different religious ideas, the stories behind them, the principles behind them, and so I'm like, if everybody's right, then what's the real deal here? And interestingly enough, when I surrendered some things in my life. At one point, I was sober from alcoholism for about 13 years, and I relapsed. I didn't drink, but I did some other deplorable things. And in that, when I became honest, I didn't drink. I didn't do it around my family, so they didn't really see. They saw changes in me, but they didn't know what it was. I wasn't like, angry, beating people up or anything. But I lost my job because of it. And when I came clean about it, it was pretty devastating. So I ended up losing my job. I lost my family. We lost the house. And because of the lies and the things that I held back, and this person that my family thought I was somebody else, my kids didn't want to see me anymore. And that left a big hole in my heart, because I was really close to my kids. And that huge hole in my heart while I was recovering, I found my ways back into the room of recovery, and thank God. It was very hard. After 13 years sober and a relapse, it was really hard to come back in. But in that hole that I had in my heart, I found to be filled through meditation, breath work. And then I found EFT, emotional freedom techniques, that helped me with my anxiety. I was having this panic attacks for no reason. The journey for healing has just been huge. I got into sound healing, shamanic journey work, aromatherapy, oils, amazing. So oils, this is where it comes in to the back. That motorcycle accident happened while I was in sobriety, obviously. And when the doctor told me that I'm going to have surgery, and I said, no, I think I can do this. And lo and behold, my partner who I was living with at the time, I felt like I needed some space. I felt like I hadn't done me. I was married for my first time for 11 years. We had 2 kids together. I lived on my own for a couple of years in California, and then I came back and I married somebody else. We were married for about 13 years. I'd never really been on my own, let alone been on my own sober, and not like a party animal. And so I told my partner that I needed my own space. I'm not ready to do this, and I still want to be with you, but I need to go find me. And that was hard to do, but that was my truth. And when I told that truth, I would say that my back in that moment healed about 80%. And something lit up in me. I'm like, whoa, what was that? So I moved on. We stayed together, but I moved into my own place. And, I kept on this spiritual journey and just widening and deepening my practices. So this 20% pain that was still there became my new 100, and it was still uncomfortable. I was still in pain most of the time, and it was nowhere near as bad as it was, but it became my new bad. So I was still living with it. And that's when I started getting really deep and being trained in aromatherapy, which was using essential oils. And it's not just smelling them or putting them on you. There's a meditative factor in that. I started working one day on this, and I was working on my back specifically because that was my biggest pain right then. And I'd close my eyes and I'd smell like tea tree, and I'm like, where do you want to go to? And it's like this voice in my head said, your knee. I'm like, why? Not my knee. I'm working on my back. And she goes, just follow that. Put it on your knee. So I put it on my knee. And I'm listening and I'm smelling it. And where do you want to go to help? And then it says, your foot. I'm like, oh, my dude, you're so wrong. This is my back. We're working on my back. And you're going to all these different places. And again, she goes, you need to learn to listen to that inner voice. That first little thing that pops up that says your knee. You're lucky you could even hear that. So, I followed it and put it on my foot. And then it went to the back. But it was a place I couldn't reach. And I'm like, yeah, I hear this all the time, right in the middle of my back. Put it there, and I can't reach. And she goes, go make a little stick. Go MacGyver this thing. So I got a little paint stick, wrapped some towel on it, put it on there, and put the oil on there. And then I was able to reach that part in my back. And I was like, oh. And all of a sudden, all this trauma came to my mind about, I hate the word trauma. All these past experiences came up about my exes, my first wife, my second wife, what I held in my head about how I let them down, what they, their opinion of me, what they would tell my kids, what their families thought, thinking that I was just, I just imagined everything that they thought of me and what they said about me. And I just started bawling, and I probably spent an hour or two working on that spot in my back. And what I equated to is that there was some like emotional daggers in me in a spot that I could not reach on my own. And in that process of releasing and just mourning, crying, something happened. I didn't feel a physical pop, but I had like a spiritual pop. And I kind of sat up straight, and I just realized that the pain is gone. There's no pain in my leg, nothing in the groin, like it's gone. And I couldn't quite believe it. My head's like, no, okay, this is a fluke. I'm just having a good day. And I spent the rest of the day looking for the pain, couldn't find it. I went to bed at night. When I got up the next morning, I got up very carefully, like I normally do, rolling out of bed a certain way, looking for the pain again. Turns out I was really addicted to that pain. Not that I wanted it, but I was so used to having it. That was just part of who I was at that point. Someone who suffered, someone who had this pain. Lo and behold, it's gone. It's been gone for almost a year now. The doctors don't even know what the heck just happened. That wasn't supposed to happen. They say, it wasn't, you were beyond healing. But I'm healed. And it took me a few days to understand truly that like that had healed, that had happened. And to integrate the fact that my body is capable of that kind of healing. Man, our bodies are amazing. I mean, this meat suit, that I'm wearing is a divine creation. We all have it. We have, our beliefs. I mean, we're so limited by the things that we think. And I'm not telling you go rub oil on you and it's going to cure all your physical problems. There was a um, intricate web of modalities that were at play here. But I've spent the last few years honing those different things because they healed me in so many different ways. Self doubt, you know, self judgment, carrying around all these old ideas of who I am, what I'm supposed to be, and it's hard work, but the rewards are so amazing. Um, so I now honed these so that I can offer these to other people to help with healing emotionally, to help with healing physically, to help creating a better, stronger version of ourselves. It is so possible. It is so possible, but it takes time and it takes patience and it takes persistence and it takes guidance. We need accountability. That's why I do this. Like, I want to be the person that helps teach these things, but also holds you accountable. I had many people along my journey that I checked in with sometimes every day, sometimes once a week. You know, there's the woman that helped me with the oils. There was my shaman who taught me that work. I have a counselor. Talk therapy is great. I still do it. I'll probably do it for the rest of my life. But when I get like a cognitive shift in talk therapy, it feels amazing. But when I walk out of there, it's like 10 minutes later, and like, oh crap, what was that? Like it's sometimes gone. That is part of the reason why I went further in clinical EFT. Became a certified practitioner, because that tapping is like talk therapy on steroids. I was able to get to some massive, deep issues and confront them and reprogram my body as to how it reacts to those things. So I had a cognitive shift, but it reprinted within me. So yeah, if you're interested in any of this stuff, hit me up. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I make no promises. I will say the things that I have healed from have taken years of work, and I've dedicated my life and time to this. Not everybody has the same amount of time that I do, but that's why I'm offering to be someone who kind of represents an easy button for you. Not meaning that it's going to come easy, but I want to be the person that helps you do this on a daily basis, create a better routine, work these modalities into your life. Because I still, even though I'm really good at this stuff, I still need to be reminded that there's a tool available for things. I forget. So, wow, that was a story. So I hope you got something out of this. And if you did, or if you got questions, or if you just want to like tease me, whatever, hit me up. Thanks for being a part of this journey, and I'll see you next time.